I'll be your guide into the Harambe Wildlife Reserve today. Just a couple of things before we get going. First, please make sure we stay fully and completely seated at all times. There's no standing up or switching seats for anyone on board. Second, everyone must keep their face coverings over their noses and down covering their chin at all times. As long as they're following those two things, we're going to have a pretty good safari. Now this first area we are heading into is actually called the Little Mysterious Forest. The animals who live in here are masters of camouflage, like the okapi on the right. Many people believe that the okapi is related to a zebra because it has these really fun and stripy legs. But okapis are actually the only known relatives of the giraffe. They've got this really cool prehensile tongue that allows them to lick their own eyes and ears, much like giraffes can. Prehensile means it can move it in any direction that they'd like. They can even use it to grab onto their food as well. Their tongue is just a little bit shorter than their cousins. Giraffe tongues are actually about 18 inches long. But an okapi tongue is only about 12 inches long or so. But it makes sense they are a little bit shorter than their cousins. Up until about 1901, when they were first discovered by the Western world, they were actually thought to be hallucinations because of how reclusive and shy they are. And still, to this day, we are not certain how many of them are even in existence. The biggest threat to the animals here in the forest is, of course, deforestation, not just due to paper products or lumber, but also due to the mining of a metal known as coltan. Coltan is actually found in a lot of our favorite electronic devices. Most commonly, it's found in cell phones. By simply taking a few extra minutes to recycle those devices, it can actually make a really big impact on the animal's habitat. Out here on the left, there's two different antelope species. The more orangey colored ones are called bongos. They're known as the ghosts of the forest. It's because they're so very, very rarely seen. Not only are they nocturnal, but they're also very shy and extremely reclusive too. You're really lucky to see them. The gray ones are their cousins, the greater kudus. Those greater kudus are female. You can tell because they do not have any horns. Male kudu horns can be about 6 feet long. Right now we are going to check out a river I know. And rivers and watering holes actually make really, really wonderful places to find animals. And it looks like down here on the right, there's actually going to be a Nile hippopotamus. You can just barely see its head poking out of the water. There's something pretty weird about hippos. I mean, like, it's weird in a cool way. You probably won't notice it until I mention it, though. Their eyes, ears, and nose are all on the top of their head. You can kind of see their eyes and ears. Their nose is actually on the top of their head, too. It's so they can poke their head above the water. See, look right there. See, hear, and smell everything going on around them without actually having it to, fully come out of the water. Being in the water is actually their camouflage. It makes them look like a giant rock. Hippos are actually some of the largest and most dangerous animals in all of Africa. Not because of what they eat. They're vegetarians. They're mostly dangerous because of how big they are. They can weigh around 5,500 pounds. Their bite is so strong it can crush a crocodile. On the left are some very obviously named birds. They're pink-backed pelicans. They're all like the gray and white ones. Not the pure white ones, but like the grayish white ones. They're pelicans, and they have pink on their back. Pink-backed pelicans. I love obviously named animals. It's so easy. Now, they don't actually use their bill pouch to carry fish, like movies suggest. They actually use it as kind of a fishing net. So they scoop up their fish with a little bit of water, and then they actually drain the water out, and they will swallow their fish whole. It's technically called a gullular pouch, but I really, really hate the way that word sounds, so I call it a bill pouch. Out here on the left, just doing what they do best, is a basque of Nile crocodiles. Now they are alive. They just do this for most of the day. It's because they are cold-blooded, like most reptiles are. And actually, you just save the majority of their energy for when they have to eat, which is about once a week to about once a month or so, depending on how much they eat at once. They can actually eat about half of their body weight in one sitting. They can weigh over 500 pounds. They've also got a bone-crushing bite force of around 2,000 pounds. If they lay perfectly still underneath the water, they can actually hold their breath for around 2 hours, which is super impressive considering we humans can hold our breath for like, 2 minutes? At the most, maybe 3. Hippos can hold their breath for about 8 minutes. But hippos also have really teeny tiny ones. Also, here's a weird fun fact about hippos that you probably never knew so again in your life, but now you do. They can actually, when they go underwater, they don't have enough air in their bodies to float, so they actually will sink to the bottom. And speaking of floats, that's what you call a group of crocodiles when they're underwater. When they're on land, they're a bask. Underwater, they're a float. Don't know why, but it's cool. But a group of hippos, that's called a bloat. Like B-L-O-A-T. Like float, like root beer kind, is like for crocodiles. Weird, right? Now you know. If you ever want to impress your friend's party, you're welcome. Hippos don't float. Like literally, you put them in the water and they just go whoop back to the bottom. But they like being on the bottom. They actually walk along the bottom instead of swim, which is kind of funny. Now that we are heading into the savannah, the Serengeti grasslands, we can finally talk about something other than hippos and crocodiles, although I love talking about them. This is a completely different ecosystem, as you can see, which does mean completely different animals. And because I enjoy looking at the animals just as much as you do, and I honestly get really, really distracted by them, we're just going to talk about the animals as we pass them. It keeps you on the same page as well as me, because otherwise I'll just be talking about random things that I can find, and you know, I don't want to get everybody all confused. You as well as me. So here on the left, I apologize for the sun, but if you cover it up, you can kind of see some African wild dogs. They're tan and black and white. They're kind of running around out here. Now, a lot of people, yeah, if you cover up the sun, you can really see them. So a lot of people confuse them with hyenas, but they're not the same. Actually don't really like each other too much because they hunt for the same food. Wild dogs are actually some of the most successful and dangerous predators in all of Africa. They're more successful at hunting than lions, cheetahs, and hyenas combined. It's because they not only hunt as a group, but because they chase their prey down till their prey falls over from exhaustion. Look, there they are. So their pack structure does really play a role in how they're successful. So the best way I can describe it is like a sandwich. They put the strongest members of their pack at the front and the back, and the weaker members in the middle. That way they have less chances of falling behind. But should one member fall behind, the pack will actually slow down and wait for them to catch up. So it's like a sandwich because it's like the strongest members are like the bread. The weaker members are like the peanut butter and jelly or the BLT or whatever it is that you put on your sandwich. It's like a BLT because then if you drop a piece of bacon and you stuff it back in and keep eating, that's kind of how it is for wild dogs. The Ankula cattle on the right is my favorite one because I love her spots the best, and she's got, her spots remind me of cookies and cream ice cream. So it makes me happy every time I see her, and I tell her every day she's my favorite. So the one on the left is my favorite horns though, and I tell her that every day too. The Ankula cattle are also called Watusi cattle, after the tribe that was first to domesticate them. Yes, you know you have beautiful horns, I tell you every day. Yes, they're my favorite because they're the only ones that make like an almost perfect circle all the way around. Now their horns are actually not that heavy. What they have inside of them is this honeycomb shape that has veins running through, and that's actually what helps them to regulate the body temperature. Keeps them cool in the summer, warm in the winter. Both males and females do have horns. The male was like all the way back in the corner, you couldn't really see them all that well. Their horns can actually be around 3 to 4 feet in length on each side and around 20 inches in diameter. They're super duper large horns. And I think the male might have the longest horns, at least in our drove, and then the female that has the curviest ones has the thickest horns. But it varies like her own human hair does. Out on the right, kind of behind that research truck and the sticks, there's some zebras or zebras, whatever you want to call them. Potato, zebra, zebra. These are called Hartmann's mountain zebras. They're just better known as mountain zebra. You can actually tell because they've got really wide stripes, but only on their back legs. They're also the only zebra species with a dewlap, which is this little extra flippy flap of skin on their neck. Look at the giraffe on the left. Now when they start running, it's a little awkward, but once they really get running, I think it's so cool to see. A couple of them here. Now, when they walk, you're probably not going to notice until I point it out, and provided they don't stop walking, they actually move both of their right legs at the same time, and then both of their left legs at the same time. But now that you see it, you'll never ever unsee it, see? Now they stop, of course. But they move both right legs, both left legs. And it's so that they can keep their balance. Otherwise, they would literally fall over face first into the dirt because of the proportions and shape of their body with the tiny head and giant body. They literally just took over. These smaller tan and white ones are called springboks. They're not actually as small as they look. They're actually about 3 feet tall, and they weigh about 100 pounds. So weirdly enough, they weigh as much as cheetahs. They just look teeny tiny because everything else is really big. They're also, fun fact, they're the national animal of South Africa. They've got a lot of rugby. Beautiful. He's little, but he's beautiful. This is just like a better angle for you. He's so cute. So you can tell that he's male because he's just chilling by himself. Once males have reached mating age of about 15 or so years, he's taking a nap. His eyes are closed, so that might be a pretty good guess. Now, elephants, there's a couple more. If you look just to the left of that big funky upside down tree, kind of by that weird palm tree that's like, hello, I'm going this way. Actually, psych, I'm going that way. Just to the right of that, you can kind of see some rocks over there with a tail. Those will be elephants. If you can't find them, just, pretend like you see the rocks with a tail and be like, wow, so cool. They're like slightly different colors than the rest of the rocks around them. But because of their size, elephants actually don't have any predators in the wild. Not lions, not cheetahs, of African wild dogs, it's literally just humans. Sadly, humans are poaching about 96 of them every day. That's about one every 15 minutes. If that rate continues, their entire species goes extinct within about 10 years. Humans are poaching them for their tusks, which are made of ivory, and we use ivory in art and jewelry. That's it. Their tusks are basically giant teeth, so they're much, much more useful to them than they are to us. Humans, you can kind of see the male one. We'll go around this way. Humans are also mining on elephant land for a metal called coltan to help them out. Our recycling, our electronics, not buying things made of ivory. It's also the least we can do, considering we're the reason that they're going extinct in the first place. My parents always told me, you make the mess, you clean it up. That's how I view the situation with the elephants, is we're the reason that they're in trouble, so it should be our job to help them out. Anyway, I don't want to talk about poaching anymore, it makes me sad. So we're going to talk about the flamingos, because they're really cool. This would be a flamboyance of the greater flamingos. Out on the right, just chilling over there, is a scimitar horned oryx, which is a mouthful of a name. But they get their name from the scimitar sword shape of their horns. A couple of them. We stopped here because there's two cheetahs on the left just sitting right next to each other. They look like one, you know, like that 90s cartoon cat dog, where it's like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's not going to make any sense, but there's like a 90s cartoon that's called Cat Dog. It's got like a cat on one side and a dog on the other, and they share a body. That's kind of what it reminds me of when they lay like that. And then there's at least 3 up here. So, you never find cheetahs alone because they have a lot of anxiety. Really small, only about 100 pounds or so, so naturally they're terrified of anything and everything bigger than they are, which is everyone except Springboks. So you can see the other female and then that big beautiful male. Fun fact, he is both Simba and Mufasa in the live-action Lion King movie. So if you saw the movie, you stared at that man's beautiful, perfect sleeping face for an hour and a half straight, which I don't really see how that's a bad thing, because look at him. Isn't he just so beautiful? Contrary to popular belief, though, it is actually the lionesses, the girls, that are the ones who hunt. On the right are 2 different antelope species. The smaller one we can see the best is called a bontebok, and then the ones that are like a little bit more in the bushes with the white ring around their backside are called a waterbuck. The waterbuck's skin actually secretes an oil, which makes their coats waterproof. So if you ever see them up close, they kind of look like they haven't washed their hair in a while, but it's that oil, and the oil actually exudes an odor that helps them to deter predators. And then the bontebok is a cousin of the wildebeests, but unlike their very athletic cousins, that's about the extent of what they do. Their name is, like, very loosely translates to patchwork antelope, because they do have a lot of different colors on their bodies. Alright, I'm going to check out this habitat up here. Oh, livestock is super cool too. Actually, because up until about the 20th century, there were less than 20 of them left in the whole entire world, which would fit about half this truck. One farmer noticed what was happening to them, decided that he wanted to try and save the bonteboks, and he did. He built a giant fence around them, essentially making their land private property. Since poachers actually cannot poach on private land, he ended up saving their whole entire species. So we're very grateful, very lucky that we get to have one of them on the reserve with us. So they're quite special. Most of the animals are, especially even lions too. There's actually less than 20,000 lions in the entire world. There's usually more people that visit Animal Kingdom in a single day than there are lions on the planet. So lions are super, super duper endangered animals. Actually, when the Lion King movie came out, Disney was working with the Lion Recovery Fund in hopes of doubling the number of lions in the world by the year 2050. So you can still look up the Lion Recovery Fund. They're not just stopping just because, I don't know if they're still working with us. I think they are, but it's a super awesome fund. Plus, it's endorsed by this really cool actor guy. I don't know if you've heard about him, but his name is Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's, he's a little famous, I think. Well, he just finally won an Oscar. I feel like he should have won an Oscar for the most times nominated, but never actually won. But that's fine. He plays in this movie with like a